Somebody that can whistle.
Gavel.
I know.
You just start and then just be loud.
All right.
We have a gavel.
Where gavel? Jim Moeller always used to have a gavel. I feel like no.
I have one really close.
I know. We helped out downtown on Friday night.
I know, me too.
Out of all the people we saw, one.
How hard can I hit the table for it?
It'll be loud.
Yes! I've always wanted this. It took me 20 years. All right. We'll call this meeting to order. It's 7 o'clock. We do have a quorum. I need an approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Erin made the motion, Joni seconded to approve all the items on the agenda. Or was it Erica? Sorry, you girls all sound alike.
I did it.
Yeah, Erica, sorry. Erin and Erica. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Joe, you want to read the board's message, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
The Oelwein School Board strives to provide an provide an environment where students can be happy, healthy, and awesome in their educational pursuits. We believe that each student can graduate ready for college and/or a career. To do so, we will provide a safe, nurturing, and engaging learning environment that meets individual wellness, social, and emotional needs.
Thank you. Item 5 is any district resident who'd like to speak to any item on the agenda. All right, moving on to presentations. SIAC committee.
All right, SIAC committee reconvened since a hiatus from COVID. And we had a small but mighty crew, and they put together some presentations, or some recommendations. So each of the building principals put together a presentation. We covered areas of academics, PBIS or social emotional learning and behavior, attendance, climate and culture, and then use some state data to kind of support all of the positions. And then that led to some discussion with the SIAC committee team members. And these are the recommendations. They want to see improved expectations of teacher and program level communication. So they thought that there was good communication at a district and even a building level, but wanted higher expectations over how teachers and programs communicate on a consistent basis to parents and students, and then that the district would provide training for staff on the resources, tools, and expectations of those best practices. They felt that there would also be value in surveying families to figure out what types of communication they prefer and how and when they want to be communicated with. I thought there was good things happening in reading and math in terms of academics, but wanted to continue to see growth in those areas by increasing the rigor and relevance of our academics. And they believe by supporting work-based learning programs, and that's focusing on preparing students for careers would help do that, growing connections to careers in the classroom, and then building opportunities with teachers to network with other professionals in those environments. So these are things we already do. They wanted to see continued growth and expansion of those areas, and then and just ensuring that we're supporting all students. I think, focusing on students, special ed students, students with different intellectual challenges and disabilities. And then family involvement got a lot of talk, but just going back to knowing how our families communicate and want to communicate, and then just recognizing that not all families feel comfortable in school or around education. So is asking the question, how can we as a district help them feel comfortable and be successful in the school? Creating incentives to increase family volunteers and then connections with the school district. Using other events to connect to academics, so like using like band concerts and vocal concerts and athletic events to make connections to the families back to academics. They thought that serving food is always a good way to get parents engaged. There were some good positive comments on the family engagement nights that we have done. They want to see more of them. And then again, back to surveying families to get their input on, how do they want to be involved and get their feedback on that. Principals, anything else to add from the SIAC meetings? Pretty short and sweet, but those were the recommendations.
It would be great to have more people there.
That is accurate. More voices would be better. That's it.
right, any questions?
So are you gonna be referring back as the things that are being done differently?
We can refer back throughout the year to make sure that, that we show the link between, this is something we're doing to something that was recommended from the committee.
Okay, great, thanks.
All right, reports, Mr. Kennan.
All right. I don't know why I feel like I'm a little more nervous than normal.
You're on your own, this is your solo.
I can't count on Tim to bail me out. Maybe Ms. Jacobs will still help me out. So special recognition there at the top, you can see our who was awarded all conference and all district baseball and softball. Cool to see that many kids getting recognized. Yeah, I mean, obviously you could read through that list. Updates, we'll have the drum corps here the first week of August again. I don't know, that's been quite a few years in a row. 4, 5, 6, I don't know, maybe longer yet.
Missed during COVID, but it was pretty regular
Yep.
before then.
And so that's a pretty big deal. I mean, that's cool that they get to see our facilities, and it's nice that they keep coming back to us. I think that, that's a good sign. Getting ready for your fall seasons, lots of open gyms and camps and things going on right now. I don't know if you noticed, there's a little bit of hubbub at the high school gym. They've got volleyball open gym and then basketball scrimmaging. So lots of things are kind of getting ready to go here, especially, with Family Week next week and being Dead Weeks. I think quite a few programs are trying to get a few things going here at the end of July. I don't know if you've seen yet, Homecoming Week will be September 18th through the 22nd, so maybe something to kind of mark down on your calendar. As many of you know, there's a lot of activities that go on that week. Healthy, our strength and speed has been going really well. Been super happy with the group that's been coming. A lot of positive attitudes and just seeing kids growth. That's the nice part about anything is if you do it consistent, eventually you'll see that growth. So it's cool to see the kids that commit to something get better, and so that's a lot of fun. Middle school program, last year we had ended up absorbing them at high school. This year their numbers have stayed high enough that we've continued to have their own sessions, so that's a good sign as well. Coach Late and Mr. Vanderloop have spent a lot of time. They got to go to a Wartburg weightlifting session that at Wartburg, the football team there. I don't know if you guys have paid attention to it a ton, but they had a ton of success last year. They lost the national championship, and so they use the same weightlifting program that we use. And so they showed Coach Late and Coach Vanderloop a bunch of the different ways that they track data and things like that. So those guys have been sending that out each week. And then just some different fun challenge activities that they do within the weight room just to promote competitive spirit and things like that. It's been really cool. My own selfish plug here, there's a golf outing on August 5th to fundraise for the football and golf programs. If you're bored, it's a lot of fun. Come check it out. Last section here, we've had 40 students go to our youth basketball camp last week, and what was neat about that is you saw a bunch of high school kids volunteering their time, or middle school and high school kids volunteering their time to help out with the little ones, which is awesome. We really, really appreciate those kids that give back. And then, like I said, team camps are going pretty hard, and actually we're kind of almost to the point where we're starting to wind down. I think girls basketball has one left, volleyball has one left, and then football camp will start that first week of August. So we're really about to hit the ground running here with lots of activities.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Ms. Jacobs.
Alrighty, so looks a little different for me, but still the same 3 categories as well. So under happy, Owine Elementary Schools now has an official Facebook page, so please go like it and share all the good stuff. We're trying to build our brand and spread the positive narrative about our schools, because if we don't, nobody else will. There's a fake page out there, because apparently Facebook will make a page if enough people tag a location. So beware. Owine Elementary Schools, that is the page, that's the cover. Yeah, it's fake news. And then I've also been doing some meet and greets with the elementary staff. About a third of the staff have done it. I know it's kind of weird because I've been here, so I know them all. But it's still fun. I told them no shop talk is allowed, so it's just an opportunity for me to get to know them more as a person. And then under healthy, I've been doing my Jaunts with Mrs. Jacobs. And Maddie Reckemer is a regular. She does not miss a single week, and it is awesome. But then we have others who join us. So this week we had Maddie and her dog Naz, along with Mrs. Carroll, Miss Emery, and then one of their students during summer school, along with DJ. If you've ever met one of our therapy dogs, Sue Woods let me come and steal him for a morning. It was so much fun. And then under awesome, we are underway with our early literacy initiative. So that's going to be a group effort between Little Husky staff, Head Start, Wings Park staff, and the public library to really close that gap between our low socioeconomic students and their peers, just based on the huge discrepancy between those scores there. So we're excited to get that going and have some more formal meetings in the next coming months. You can see those stats kind of there and why we're doing this. Our scheduling team for the elementary met last Friday and again today to develop a schedule that works best to address the needs of our students. So we came up with some tight expectations and our priorities like core instruction, SEL time, meeting the needs of our special education students and our low SES students, and protecting teacher time that teachers gave us, and I just can't thank that team enough. It was Emily Woods, Lisa DeLong, Lisa Clark, Haley Fries, and Tara Ketoff. They weren't paid for their time. We gave them some food and snacks, but they came in for probably 8 hours between the 2 days and knocked this out as a team. And it was just great to have them come together, share some community, and work together to get that done.
All right, any questions? Thank you, Ms. Adams.
We've been busy this summer. We had about 46 O2 kids for summer school, and then we helped support almost 55 middle school and high school kids through their summer school endeavors. We still have a handful of kids that are taking classes. We have middle schoolers who are still finishing their semester because we're not letting them stop within half. We need to complete our learning. And then we do have a couple of kids who've reached out this year and requested classes because they want to catch up on grad credits to graduate on time. So I'm working with them this month until staff is back. We are digging in with some of the new curriculum that our teachers are going to put in with our middle school. So starting to look at the alignment of some hands-on labs for science that our kids are going to be able to do. Because with Edgenuity, parents don't always have the supplies on hand and it's not realistic. So Mr. Regan's putting together labs that will match the learning in Edgenuity but get our kids involved. Parkside, I want to say thank you to Derek, who's our custodian over there. I don't know that I've ever seen Parkside over the last year look or smell so good. It has been wonderful. It's always had a very musty smell, and he's worked really, really hard to get that out. And the floors are waxed this year. It looks amazing, which is getting us ready for our back to school night. And as a staff, we've decided that our backpack night, back to school night, would not be virtual this year. We are going to offer a face-to-face option so that kids can come in, meet the staff, start building relationships and trust with them. So when they're reaching out for support, they will feel more comfortable. And then also have a few games kind of mixed in there to earn some prizes. So just trying to build a little camaraderie amongst our virtual kids.
All right, any questions?
I got one. Regarding summer school, my wife was talking to a teacher from West Central and said they do their summer school in August as kind of a primer to get them ready for school. And they thought doing it later in the summer versus the beginning of the summer was a lot more effective. Do you guys see any benefit to that?
It could be the buying of teachers to get them to.
Yeah. Like, I think about when people vacation, and I think of, like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the end of July and early August is kind of the meat and potatoes of that time. I could be wrong though, with like baseball and stuff like that, that eliminates a lot of that time for those families, but I guess I don't know.
I can see both sides of it. I see the side that for our struggling learners who need that oomph to just kind of get those juices flowing so when the school year starts, they don't lose those first few weeks finding their mojo. But then I also see for some of our students that the ownership aspect of it maybe not taking things as seriously, thinking we're gonna forget about summer school over the summer and
Keeps them in that routine if we do it in June versus August. There's pros and cons to each.
I've seen a couple of Bump Start programs in August for students that do need that little initial jump start for the year.
Last year, we moved a summer camp, or like our sports camp, into July, and then did a reading camp in August with, I'd say mild participation, and they're planning on doing that again this year.
Yeah.
But I think the challenge right now is staffing has been the hardest part. I think, we get the staff, I think we can get some kids. And I mean, parents and kids drive the numbers. So, I mean, if they wanted to do it in August and the numbers were high, I think we would transition more resources to do it then versus doing it in June. I think part of our challenge is this is just the way it's always been, which is not a good excuse. But it's culturally, I think when parents expect it and plan for vacations and those kind of things, and you got a lot of baseball, softball still happening youth-wise in June, so they stick around more. Like all those things lead to it, but there could be some academic benefits to priming in August.
Ms. Hampton.
Excuse me. Lots of work is being done in the building right now. A special shout out to Mr. Nate and Ms. Kane. They're working really hard to get rooms clean, organized, moving furniture, doing all of that. And they're just doing a great job. Wanted to do another special shout out to Mr. Mikey Hahn, who has come in and done so many projects that have been kind of on the list since I started. Just like little things that were easy to say, no, this need to be done. He's just come in and knocked them out one after another. It's just fun to see all the things being done. So it's and then I also want to thank the maintenance crew because they've just done a lot of hard work this summer for us. June Academy was done on June 29th. Obviously, I wrote this much earlier, but we're going to evaluate the experience and look for ways to improve it for next year. One of the things that I will say about the June Academy and thinking about that conversation we just had is that the list was at least double than what we ended up sending letters to, because kids at the end were like, oh, they actually may meet at this time, and so we had kids pumping out work and getting things caught up and meeting with teachers. So whether or not June Academy was actually a great success, it did at least get some kids to say, oh no, they're gonna pull our feet to the fire. Our book clubs that I mentioned last month, those are finished. We had a lot of great discussions, and we're left with several action steps that that group of teachers want to complete for next year. And the schedule is complete-ish. We had a team working on it, but unfortunately we still have those open spots, so it's really hard to say if it's going to stay that way. There's too many variables left. And then my last line there is thank you to all of you for your support over the course of 2 years. I've enjoyed my time here, and I'm sad to leave, but I'm not sad to drive less. So, thank you.
Any questions? All right, thank you. Mr. Happy.
Yeah, before I start, I will help Eric a little bit. A couple activities like you may not be aware of because they just kind of happen outside of here. ONFFA, they've been at both fairs, Buchanan and they're currently at Fayette County Fair. So if you get a chance to go to Fayette, go support ONFFA. They've got some great stuff going on over there. And then I don't know why I didn't include it, but Mr. McBride has been like just a machine. Like he did. So our Husky Productions did all of Independence's July 4th stuff, which is like huge concert stuff. They're the main like vendor for like Husky Productions, all the lighting, sound. And then he did several of the shows down here for our celebration, and the band kids marched in the parade, like all within 7 days. And oh, by the way, his room is flooded. So like he's just been awesome. And speaking of flooding, our recognition, like everybody else, is our custodial crew, Brittany, Paul, and they've just been busting off. They also, as that flooding was happening, they helped save actually our hallway, our ag hallway, water coming down along with Derek and many others, just pushing water away and damming that up and kind of keeping that safe. So thanks to them, they had just waxed that hallway like that morning too. So those poor folks, like that tile's gone now, it's not a big deal, I guess. As far as, that's very clean tiles going out, but poor folks, man, they've been, I agree, our building looks I've been in some other districts as well, before I came here, and I've never seen a building this ready to go before school, honestly, so they've really been working hard, so kudos to Haley and Jim and all the crews. As far as happy, we finished up summer school as well. We have a couple of kiddos still they're close, that we're allowed to extend, even though I said I wouldn't. I don't know, I'm the same way as a parent too. I don't know, it's good for them, right? Get it done. But we ended with a trip to Lost Island. I got to drive the bus over. I'd never been to Lost Island. Get a chance. It's awesome. I know, weird, right? I'd never been, but it's really cool. And I think we took 22 and I brought back 22. I think they were all the same. So it was a lot of fun. We allowed a couple of other staff students to go too. The staff works hard and they should be rewarded as well. So, but kids, first experience for a lot of them. We provided them a meal and just awesome experience. And it was really cool. Healthy, our instructional team, and I'm sure Ms. Ring will talk to you a lot about it, attended high reliability school training. I don't know if it's healthy or not, Ms. Jacobs, she killed this entire pizza, just awesome.
It was so good. And I tell you, I lost 6 pounds this week. And somehow, I don't know how.
Just working hard. Finally, kind of cool, I got to give a tour to the class of 1968, that was really awesome. They were the tornado class, they gave me this coin you can see. So they had told me, and then I misinterpreted somewhere else, I don't know publicly where I shared this, maybe on Facebook or something, but I said that they didn't have a graduation. Someone yesterday at the fireman's breakfast corrected me and said she was from that class and her husband was nominated to be the speaker for graduation. They had one several weeks after their regular scheduled graduation, so apologies to anyone that gave it an act, but they didn't have the regular graduation, it was another one. They did say, however, there's some kids that should have graduated, but all the records were damaged and they got to graduate. I was like, oh, that's a good way to get to 100%. Maybe our flooding damaged everything. Really cool, really fun, and then the building was open for our alumni to come through over the session too, and Derek and I got to give some kind of impromptu tours over the weekend too, as we had groups come through. It was really fun. Everybody's just impressed with the work you guys have been doing and what you've allowed us to kind of create as far as safety as well as functionality for our students. So kudos to everybody who's worked hard to make the high school look just exceptional. That's it. Any questions?
All right, thank you. Public hearings, none? Discussion?
Just a quick update on the water main break. All week, most of last week, and then today, Iowa wall sawing was in, cutting out the bad concrete, and where that giant hump was, which is where we thought the water main break was, it was not there. They took all that out and it was completely flat and actually dry. So I scratched about 1/4 of an inch of sand away and got down to dry sand, which was completely shocking. But they got all that concrete out and then came back second day and they cut and pulled out concrete and still did not find anything. They started actually digging holes to try to figure out where the break was and then stopped. And the very last piece that they pulled out at the end of the day on Thursday, it revealed a small hole next to the hallway wall, and that was where we started to kind of look for the relief in the sand to find out where the break was. The process then continued overnight, and we brought in cameras to look in the hole, brought in cameras to look at the end of the water main and try to find where the water main was. Discovered the water main is actually 10 feet deep and below a maze of fiber optics, plumbing, electrical, and coax cables. And so when the insurance company showed up and the engineers showed up on Friday to see what they thought was going to be a gaping hole in the ground where this water main was, there wasn't one. And I informed EMC that if they wanted to investigate the hole or the break any further, then they were going to have to bring in a crew to dig down 10 feet amongst all that stuff. After our tour of the facility, the agent made some phone calls to his higher ups and came back with the good news that EMC is going to cover all the loss. So that was huge relief. And then they finished pulling out all the concrete today, and they were able to they dug down about, let's see, it'd be 24 inches, and they dug down to the conduit, the first layer of conduit, and we discovered that there was a void below all the conduit. So there's like 5 conduit lines that run right down that hallway, and there's a sand void about 3 or 4 feet deep below that. So tomorrow, Baker Enterprises is going to fill that void with concrete. So instead of putting sand in there and trying to pack it down, they're going to bring like a wet concrete that goes down in there, and they'll vibrate it, and that'll fill all the voids that are in the sand and make the surface solid. So then they'll put sand back on top, and then by Wednesday or Thursday, we should have all new concrete in that area and a brand new floor. So by the end of this week, things are going to look a lot different. By the end of this week, we have a contractor that is mobilizing staff and ordering materials to start putting drywall back in. I picked out carpet last week on Friday, and it should be here by the end of the week. And as soon as they're available this week and next week, they're going to start doing demo and prepping some stations. And then by August 4th, there'll be 2 different crews here laying CBT tile and carpet tiles. So we are full steam ahead to have teachers back in their classrooms on August 14th. So nothing else can go wrong. Everything has to work out exactly as we have penciled out. But things have started to line up nicely to go through the next few weeks. I'd say the only hiccup right now is when they tore the carpet out, they damaged there's a hearing aid system. It's a giant loop hearing aid system in the Williams Center. And it's got copper tape that runs a big zigzag over the floor of the entire surface. And when they tore the carpet out, some of that copper tape was damaged. And so we have a company that can provide it and installed it. But for the life of me, I cannot talk to a human. Phone call, try to get a hold of sales reps, service techs, the company themselves out of Florida, and no one picks up the phone. No one calls back, no messages, haven't responded to my emails. So we think they're still a company, but they don't apparently want to do business. So that's it's a small hurdle, but it's been the biggest hurdle the last couple of days. But hopefully this week we'll get some traction there. If not, I read the white papers on how to get how that stuff actually works, and we might be able to just get some copper tape and do it ourselves. But we'll see. We'll trudge along on that one. We just got to have it done before the carpet goes back in. So we got a couple weeks to get that figured out.
Does CEC or Wisconsin sell that?
What's that?
Does CEC sell that same system?
Maybe. I should check into that. It might. This company might have been out of Wisconsin. I think the installers might have been out of Wisconsin, but the provider is out of Florida.
So is Little Husky at Parkside? Or Parkside Wings?
No. Good question. Childcare is back in.
Oh, okay.
We had fire marshal. Well, we had some debacles with trying to figure out the right room. So if you're 2 and under, you have to have 2 door exits in a room because of like the cribs and stuff. And we just racked our head around the right space and moving in and out. And then do you put everybody together? Do you split them apart? And so we just kind of said, well, I did a walkthrough with Service Master, and they prioritized getting those rooms clean and ready. And then I also made sure not to like destroy the rooms. They destroyed the back sides of the rooms to get them dry, but the rooms themselves were maintained. Our maintenance crew came in and put vinyl base back in on Monday of last week. Fire marshal came on Tuesday, and he gave us the green light that as long as during the construction phase we keep an open egress that they can use the inside as an emergency exit. They're using the outside as their main exit, and the staff's kind of made like a makeshift workstation inside to kind of they're just trying to survive, but they're doing a good job. The older kids are down in the old ag room where we had our board meeting. Fire marshal gave us approval to use that room for those kids. And we're serving food. They're doing to-go lunches out of the middle school kitchen. So making it work. But it prevents having to move 2 or 3 times. So it was worth it. I think the kids, I'm sure the kids appreciate being in their space and normal as normal can be. Any other questions on the progress?
So EMC is gonna cover all the expenses, less, do we have a deductible or?
$10,000?
Probably 5 or 10, yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't have a limit on that particular type of loss.
Flooding might be 2, and then underground foundation, which we thought that we had no coverage, we actually have $1 million of coverage.
Oh, okay,
So I think we'll be okay in both arenas.
okay, great.
Yeah, punching some numbers out, I think that, I would say it's fair to, fairly safe to say we're gonna be over $500,000, but I don't think we'll get to $1 million.
All right, on to consent agenda items. Questions or motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Bob made the motion, Aaron seconded it to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Item 11 is to approve the legislative priorities.
All right, so this has always been a fun, challenging conversation. I think that the ISB made it more challenging or less challenging, depending on your perspective. So this year, they only want to know if you approve the whole thing or if you want to change anything. So if you want to change anything, you have to tell us what you think should be changed, and then Michael and I have to go in and do a little survey thing of how we're going to change the legislative platform. So there are student achievement, preschool, early literacy, English learners, school safety, dropout prevention, mental health, special education, sharing and reorganization, supporting AAAs, supporting the TLC program, focusing on professional development and teacher retention, state aid, which we all need, school funding, which we all need, property tax relief, focusing on the tax base. So this is talking about eliminating some of the tax credits and providing more authority to school boards. Issues with bond, they've really tightened restrictions on bond issues, which we don't think really will affect us, but certainly they're taking power away from boards. No unfunded mandates, giving local accountability and decision making back to boards, and then just some comments on public school choice and homeschool education. It's a lot. I recommend that you don't change anything and we approve the legislative platform as is. Is there anything you guys want to look at in there? Or I can make it bigger. It's hard to see. There's a lot of stuff.
I'm always the naysayer. I often wonder how much this even helps. We do it every July
Yeah.
for the last 20 years, every July.
Well,
we
they
bet-
they survey all 339
Yeah.
public school districts, and they get input from all 339 of them, and then they take all that and put it into one legislative platform that gets voted on at convention.
Yeah, I don't. This is the first year they've ever done this.
This is new. Yeah, we were looking for the documents that we've had before,
Right,
and
where
we're
you-
like, this is the difference. We actually went into the survey, and the whole survey thing is different this year.
They have everything in it, really.
Everything's in it.
I don't know what they've left out.
No.
That's what I thought when I looked at it. I'm like,
You just are waiting for a motion to
Mhm.
approve. I'll make a motion to approve. Legislator, or I lost it.
Legislative resolution.
Yes, there it is, updates, yes. Priorities platform. I'll second.
Joni made the motion, Aaron seconded to approve the legislative updates as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. B is to approve the staff handbook.
Okay, so we updated names, all the incentive package language that needs to be updated, contract stuff. Michael updated all the appendices with new language. There is two substantial pieces in here that I do want to share with you, so you're aware. So each there's three sections, 4 if you count the appendix. There's a general section for everybody, and there's a certified section and a classified section. It's been our goal kind of over time to merge as many of those things as possible, so it's a universal handbook and not classified or certified, although there does have to be some differences. So a couple years ago, we got tighter on language for unpaid days, and we put it in both sections. So there was a section in certified and a section in classified. So we had a significant amount of unpaid leave this year from staff, like it doubled. So 2 years ago, it was like 58. Actually, I might have it. Print it out. I did. Okay, so 4 years ago it was 54, and then 77. Last year it was 98, and this year we are 294. So we got a problem, and policy is one way to help us fix it. We added a whole section on special leave, which is a board policy we already had, and so we just took that and put it into the handbook, and then added this language. So it basically outlines, it's kind of hard to see. So it just reiterates that unpaid leave is a violation of the contract and the agreement between the employee and the school board. That requests and communication for unpaid days will be processed. So before we had language in there about approved or unapproved, or on the back end of our protocols, employees had to submit it, and for us to push it through, it had to be approved. Like, you had to click an approved button. Well, we're not really approving it. Like, we're agreeing that we know you're going to be gone, you're going to take an unpaid day. We're not really in favor of it, but the language in there was confusing, and it did cause a little bit of issue. So we've removed that whole thing. So the employees would have to request or communicate their need to be unpaid, and then we on the back end don't approve anything. We actually put it in as an unpaid administrative leave, which is kind of our worst way to catalog leave within our system. And then employees are automatically placed into a phased system of discipline. Phase 1 would be a formal reprimand, and they meet with their supervisor and myself. Phase 2, they get put on an improvement plan. And then that part of that improvement plan is that we would have them use buyback events, or basically spend time working in the district through our after-school events to kind of buy back time, just to show like, hey, like there's a lot of time that goes into this and you can help do that. And then the phase 3 is just that if you sign a third strike, you're out, where we'd seek termination. And then that we do have, there are, I would say, all of the situations are probably unique, and everybody's got what they feel is reasonable opinions of why they should take leave when they run out of their leave already. But it becomes really challenging to write policy on this type would be approved or would be circumstantially appropriate, and this type wouldn't. And so I want to raise the bar in terms of what becomes unique and special, and then hand that power back to the board. So if there is a unique or special circumstance, I would hand it back to the board to have full discretion over allowing it or disallowing it. And an employee would have to write in advance requesting to have a meeting with, to have their request heard at a meeting by the board, a regular board meeting with 2 weeks in advance. And then the board would have the opportunity to review it or deny it. You could, the employee, if you granted them the opportunity, they could request a closed session. Under the Iowa law, that would be allowable if that's a direction we wanted to go. So that's, I'd say, a heavier lift for you guys. But just with the sheer number of unpaid days that we've had this year, and having to process all those and all the wildly unique circumstances, I think trying to raise the bar, the threshold of what it takes to get them approved, so to speak, is why we put this proposal together. We can talk about this more in just a second. I want to get through the rest of these things here. We also added language to, we went to a HR law conference put on by Allers and Cooney, a couple of the principals, and then a couple central office staff and myself. And one piece of our disciplinary process protocol that we were missing was a specific protocol on an improvement plan. So we had awareness, reprimand, and suspension, and then termination, but we didn't have anything in there in terms of a specific improvement plan to support the employee in terms of improving in an area that is performance-based. So we added that. And then, don't get motion sick here, I gotta scroll down a ways. So it's a little bit related to the unpaid leaves, but we had a couple of disciplinary actions in the past year around, there you can see we've omitted the unpaid leave language from before. But a couple of disciplinary actions that came up over the course of the year around usage of time clock. So all of our classified staff, they punch a clock every day. Well, they don't really punch a clock, it's all virtual. So they can do it on their phone, they can do it in their building. And there are some nuances within that system that allow for, I would just, some potentially fraudulent behavior in terms of lying about work when you're working, when you clock in, when you clock out. And we didn't really have any language at all in our handbook or get our guidance on clocking in, clocking out. So, it's down here a ways. There's unpaid leave again. There it is. So we added a whole section on time clock procedures. Just that, very vague, just in terms of employees must do it, that they're given 5 minutes of variance in terms of when they're supposed to clock in or clock out, and then anything outside of that can essentially be looked at for disciplinary reasons. The employees are not allowed to adjust their own hours whenever they want, that we have the opportunity to geofence where they can clock in and out. So like they can't clock in from their home and then clock out from their home. And then having other people clock in and clock out for you is also basically an act of fraud and will be grounds for disciplinary action and termination. So all these things kind of came up with employees over the course of the year. We didn't really have anything to look back on to say, you're violating a policy. So we wrote the policy, put it in the handbook so that if it happens again, or when it happens again, hopefully it doesn't, but we have something to point to in terms of this is a violation of policy. It's much easier and quicker to go through disciplinary action when we have it written down.
And what kind of staff uses this time clock procedure?
Pretty much everybody but teachers. So so secretaries, associates, custodians, food service, bus drivers.
And that's an app on your phone, you say?
Yeah, we have computers in all the workrooms that they can do their clock in, clock out, and then we allow them to use their phones, or they can use it like a laptop.
So do we have the ability to do the geo-referencing, geo-fencing?
So Laura has done a little research with our time clock company on that. That of course requires a different subscription than what we have. So, but we have, yeah, exactly right, yeah. We have looked into that though, because from the advice we've gotten on all of our cyber exposure, putting more stuff in the cloud and less stuff locally on your servers is the recommended way to go. And that would also do that. In addition to giving us a geofencing option for time clock, it would put our punches out in the cloud instead of being stored locally on a server. So there's a couple reasons why it is appealing besides just that. So,
But the employee could have the option just to come to the district
Yep.
building and do it that way if they wanted. But
yes.
if they decided to take the option of having the app on their phone, then maybe we could make them subject to the geofencing.
Bingo.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
All right. So those are the substantial updates and changes. There really is nothing else that's substantial. Just some wording changes on a few things, cleaning and clarifying some things up, and then like I said, updating for the fiscal year, different prices and different things. We did update the one that I'd say caused a lot of conversation in central office was the price of meals. It's expensive to eat now, and so trying to figure out what that sweet spot was. I don't know if Michael, you want to talk about that at all?
So these conferences you allow me to go to, it gets talked about, usually ironically over a meal. We talk about stuff like this. It's pretty scintillating conversation at these SBO conferences, but we were talking about it, and I was asking a couple of my colleagues how they do it, and they reference it's like a government, the GSA, Government Services Agency, and then you have kind of a standard number to go with, similar to how a lot of folks use the IRS mileage reimbursement. So it's a lot like that, but with this, we just punched in a zip code of where we send a lot of folks for conferences. You don't punch in 50662, you punch in, Des Moines or somewhere like that. What's it cost to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner there? And then there's modification in there for if you have continental breakfast, for example, at your hotel and different things like that. So, but yeah, that was a welcome addition to the handbook, or update to the handbook. So, for sure.
All right. Obviously, did a lot of work to get this prepped and ready, so I would recommend approval, but certainly willing to hear concerns and thoughts and ideas, especially on this last piece here, where we talk about turning that authority over to you.
What were the main ones? What, if you had to guess 3 top? Like, were they, like, it's not, they're aside from medical things, like FMLA and that.
Yeah, so FMLA definitely qualifies. And I don't think those are counted in this total.
No, I don't think so. No,
Because we have those too.
because we label those FMLA.
Do they
When-
have to be gone, like, what is the policy? Are they
So-
gone a week or?
It's tough. A lot of employees actually see that as like a leave option. So I explain to Josh and Laura all the time, like it's anybody in the office that'll listen to me on it. It's not like a bonus leave. It's a protection afforded by the federal government for your position. But once an employee burns through all of their leave, okay, an employee can bank up to 140 sick days, okay? But you don't see it in the ones that have 140 sick days banked up. You see it in, first, second, third year employees. So when they burn through all of their leave, which we require the employee to use all their leave before they enter their 12-week window on FMLA. But what that 12 weeks does is it protects the position for 12 weeks. It's not, they don't get a paid leave of 12 weeks. They just get the assurance that we will not go higher for their position over the course of 12 weeks. Then at the end of 12 weeks, we need to know the plan moving forward. And there's paperwork, of course, because it's a federal thing. There's reams of paperwork with it in terms of doctor needs to fill some stuff out. It's all on the up and up. And then once it's approved, the timeline on it is a contract year. And we got a lot of clarification from our attorneys on that last spring because we had a rash of them. I would say the spring of 22 was probably our peak on FMLA requests. But we got a lot of clarification from them on what we can do and what we cannot do. But it resets at the beginning of their contract year. So for teachers, that's September through August, and for some staff, it's July to June, and whatever the contract runs, that's when they would be eligible for it again. So if they went on an FMLA during a school year and then God forbid, but it happens again or something the next year, they would be eligible for it again because it resets at the beginning of the contract year. So sorry to beat that one into the ground, but that's the long and short of it.
I would say our most frequent is illness that have used all their sick leave, all their personal days, and burned through FMLA, which is a lot. And then they also get they get sick kids. You also have a handful that they'll burn through their PTO early in the year for a vacation or something, and it's always a unique situation that they have to do. Like my mother-in-law is taking us all to Cozumel, and then not to make light of mother-in-laws that take their families to Cozumel. I would love for my mother-in-law to take me to Cozumel.
Good for that.
Right?
Good for that.
Yeah, right.
What do they get? What do the starting people get?
They get 3 personal days, and then first-year employees get 10 sick days.
And then PTO on top of that?
The PTO, so personal days, so depending on the employee group, it's personal or PTO.
So 13 days?
13 days possible, yep. And then inevitably, they've used them all up early in the year or by Christmas, and then, their child, has a dance recital, or they go to state archery or the national archery and then world archery. And then, there's just, it compounds. And then, we would take them through the behavior protocols, which were, slap on the wrist, reprimand, and then like a suspension, which is ironic. Like, I'm going to suspend you for a day if I'm paid. Like, you're already not here. And by the time we run through, so by the time they've done all that stuff, and then they've done the other things, and we've run through our disciplinary action, the year's over, and they've been gone, 3 or 4 weeks total of the school year. So that, and that's how you run into the 294.
Right,
Yeah.
and the sad part is, we didn't hire that person for nothing.
Correct.
We have a purpose for them being here, and whether enjoying their time in Cozumel, there's some kids not getting services they should be getting because we can't find anybody to fill that void. That's the sad part about this. We need these 284 working days to serve our kids.
Yeah, but we also want them to stay. I mean, not them, that are gone all
No,
the time, but we
there
also
is no
want
question
teams
that
there, so.
the economy of employment is, I mean, very real. The fact, it definitely crosses our mind. We have conversations about, do you get tougher? I mean, do you just fire them? Like, because the board, we could, and you could go all the way to, well, you violated the contract, we can take you to termination right now. Like, we could do that. You have that authority. They're an at-will employee. But are they replaceable? And 5 years ago, they were. And the employment market right now would say they're not. I mean, you can't replace some of them.
Right.
Unfortunately. And I think that's been the biggest change that is impacting the volume of this that we've seen. I think that as I've talked to other business folks, I think they're seeing it other places too. People just don't show up to work.
No call, no show.
Yeah, no call, no shows. Or it's fine. You don't have to pay me for that day. Well, obviously we're not going to pay you.
But you have to.
But they think that's the punishment. I'm punishing myself by not getting paid. Well, no. We have kids to educate. That child is counting on you to show up, and that's damaging. It hurts our culture. It hurts our student achievement performance. It sucks.
Yep.
So that 294 days, is that 294 days or 294
Days.
days?
Yep.
How many people is that? Is it like a couple handful of people?
10
for that?
per. I think we had 19.
19 people?
19 individuals.
So
So
we
that's
would've had-
so that's almost 10% of our staff.
Okay. So we would have had to have met or discussed 19 cases last year?
Oh, as a board, you mean?
Yeah.
No. My guess is that you would maybe get 1 or 2 requests a year.
Okay, I was like.
That was a good question.
No, I was
Yeah.
thinking, good questions.
No, yeah.
That's about family priorities.
If you come to the board, I think maybe we'll have a different discussion going on. You'll have a different discussion going on.
I hope so.
Yeah, I would think who would want to
That's,
come to the
that's
board?
where I was like, man, okay.
But you don't feel like there's like a committee you could create besides us that could do the same function of direct supervisor included and other group of administrators? Or do you think this is
Well,
more power to come to the board?
So
That's a man.
if the discretion, at this point, if it's my discretion, the answer is always going to be no, because I'm tired of this, right? And because it's so hard to pick winners and losers, I feel like myself included, I've fallen off the ledge in terms of, well, what do I say no to? We've said yes to all this stuff. So to put a stop to it, you just say no. Well, there may be a unique or special circumstance that calls for allowing someone to have days off, unpaid. And a committee could do it. You could have a board review committee, but they can't make any action. So just like the negotiating committee, they're just advising me to be the chief negotiator. So they could have, so the board could hear it, a review committee could hear it and still advise me on what to do, but it would ultimately be the board's authority, one way or another. So you could do something like that. The authority would still lie with me, but I could be advised by a small committee of board members versus coming to the entire board. If you wanted to go that route, we could make something. We could make that work.
There would have only been like 1 or 2 last year.
Yeah, honestly, I can think of like 2 off the top of my head in the last 7 years that I think I would recommend, or what would, under this circumstance, would say, yeah, this is, yeah. Yep. And really it's been a couple of the ones, they've run out of FMLA. And the board you guys have approved some before. You guys have done leave of absences before. We had a cancer patient, and and an employee had cancer, and an employee that was in a car accident. That they ran an FMLA, they were a good employee, we didn't need to lose them. They thought they could return the next year, but just needed to get to the end of the school year without going through all the disciplinary action, and so they wrote a letter. The board approved it to do a leave of absence. So this is kind of in that same wheelhouse, that they would be basically, like that the circumstance for what they're bringing to you raises a high enough bar that they could ask special permission to be basically given a reprieve from their contract.
So right now, let's say I sign a contract, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna be a parent.
Okay.
I work 60 days. Corn's ready, I need to take unpaid time off. Do I still get medical insurance?
You do. The board still, the school and the board still pays medical insurance.
I'll be back after I get done. You're bound to take me back, and I've got medical insurance, the way the current policy is, and I've got
Correct.
medical insurance all the time.
Correct.
Paid by the district.
Yes.
Okay, just want to clarify that. So I don't think this is being too rough at all.
Well, that's what we joke around about that a little bit, just like, well, if they forgot to come to work, what if we forget to pay the medical? Like, I'm sorry, we lapsed and didn't pay your insurance this month because we messed up. Michael didn't come to work. Check didn't go out. I mean,
Which that stuff is different. I was thinking more
Yeah.
about like those big medical things where people are, and so every time they would
We-
come
yeah.
to us or they would talk to you.
we already have, I think the medical stuff, we already have FMLA protection. And we already have policies and practices in place to allow them to take a long-term leave of absence because of those circumstances. This is more of like, I'm taking vacation.
2 weeks in Greece.
2 weeks in Greece. Yes.
After Cozumel.
Yes. Correct. Yeah.
7 continents, 6 days.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, you guys, can approve it as is. We can always tweak it later. I can take it out and we can just say no to everybody. Or we could do a committee.
I think I was just more worried we were gonna be talking about 5 cases every board meeting.
If we're in like December and we're talking about a bunch of these, I think we have the right to change and adjust midstream if necessary. If it's like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. I don't think we're gonna have. I don't know. I think we're gonna come hard enough at this that I hope we don't have any.
I was gonna say, this is kind of sending a good message, I would think.
Yeah.
I
And then
wouldn't
they come
wanna
to
have to go
Christmas
through the
break,
trouble, but
And there's time in summer to try to schedule on top of that, right?
correct.
Oh yeah, yes. Yeah, we've expanded spring break too. I mean,
Yeah,
and then even in the last couple of years, we've given them additional PTO days and allowed carryover.
And we'll have some without leave by Halloween.
Yes.
Yep.
I'll make the motion to approve the 23-24 handbook as presented.
I'll second that.
Joe made the motion, Bob seconded it to approve the handbook as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. We are on to resolution to participate with Sacred Heart Parish for the HVAC.
So I think it was in December, we had the different bids from a couple firms, engineering firms, to provide HVAC upgrades after the boiler cracked in the Sacred Heart Gym with the intent to provide air conditioning, and they were each in the $750,000 range. So I went back to the parish and they were still interested in doing something. And so they're able to seek a contractor to do kind of the same work without having to go through all the red tape that the district does. And underneath our lease agreement, we have language in there that supports basically negotiating terms for any improvements over $5,000, and that the district can provide upgrades when those things happen. So the resolution just reads that we have the authority to do this. The lease gives us authority to do this. The boiler broke, and then basically asking permission to suspend board policy 901.5, which requires us to seek competitive bids, which would be a little bit confusing when they have a contractor and we're going to get bids for the same work, which you couldn't do because it couldn't work with the way they have the contractor and we would have to get separate bids. So we'd suspend that policy for this specific purpose. And then it would give me authority to work with the contractor that the parish hires to provide air conditioning in that gym. It would also authorize us to spend up to $150,000 to do the air conditioning in the gym. And as a side note, the parish is basically paying to put the heat in, which is what the lease requires them to do. And their portion will probably run somewhere between $50,000 and $75,000. And then the last piece is that this will authorize the business office to pay the contractors for those improvements. This money would come out of SAVE, correct? Pebble?
I believe so, yeah.
So good opportunity for us, huge savings of money. Appreciate the parish working with us and allowing us to do this and making improvements to that gym. It continues to get more and more use. The golf team is putting in golf simulators in the old preschool room. They're going to use it as fundraisers in the winter for all the guys that play golf in town to go hit golf simulators. Pretty wild stuff. So
we've got a couple of those kids that are really into golf are gonna operate that like their Husky Barn in the high school and operate it kind of like a business and use that as a way of like learning about how it is to run a business, right? And so we kind of envision that as a really cool opportunity for all of our programs to be able to utilize those and auction, raffle, whatever for, if the girls softball team wants to sell or auction off 4 hours in our room with 2 simulators that have Pebble Beach on them, they can do that to the highest bidder, right? And you and your buddies can come play golf in January on Pebble Beach. So we're really excited about the utility of that.
So it's been a great relationship, and it's just been a good facility for us to continue to grow and use. And this is just going to take. This will make the floor surface actually better because of the way we move air over top of it, and then it makes it a more usable space in the summer for summer basketball camp, summer league. I know the basketball club. Maybe it's a different topic. They rented the wellness center for their basketball clinic. Well, you can't really use that because it's kind of really hot right now. But now with air conditioning, they could have their basketball camps down at Sacred Heart and at the high school. So just expands our use. So I recommend approval of the resolution to upgrade the HVAC at the Sacred Heart Gym.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution to state the Sacred Heart with the HVAC.
I'll second.
Joni made the motion, Aaron seconded to approve the resolution with Sacred Heart. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. We're gonna jump to C. Oh, you're gonna abstain?
I got you down as
Okay,
abstain.
good.
Yep.
Sorry.
Thanks,
We're gonna bump back to C. We're gonna approve and review the SIAC committee recommendations, sorry.
Yep.
Just bypass that.
Nothing, just to formally approve or just to recognize that you received them.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Joe made the motion and Erica seconded to approve the SIAC committee recommendations as presented. Discussion. All in favor, raise your hand. It's the same, motion passes. Item E is to approve the banks as depositors of school funds and set the max deposits.
All right, so this is pretty straightforward as well. All the banks are listed there. I have bumped up the numbers. Some exciting news to share with you. If you noticed in the finances, our interest went up quite a bit. That's because our savings rate on our big fund went from 0.50 to 2.49%. So in real dollars, it equates to about $3,800 to over $15,000 in a month. in interest income. So that's a good thing. That conversation got kind of spurred along by getting solicited for CDs from a couple of our banks, and we kind of spread the wealth out a little bit too there in terms of depositors. We're getting a little lopsided in one of our institutions versus the others, so we're going to probably be spreading that wealth out a little more while we have big balances. I don't know how long we'll have big balances, with some of the projects we've been talking about. We'll probably be spending some money on those, and we've settled on a pretty good compensation packages for all of our groups this year and things like that. But I'm just saying, while we have the money, we might as well have the money working for us. And so that's kind of the driving force behind the bump to 10 million on those institutions. Regions stays at 5 million. Honestly, the reason Regions is on there is they hold our corporate card, our credit cards. But we don't actually hold any funds with them, any of our actual funds with them. And then that Iowa Schools Joint Investment Trust, I've left that on there because they do offer some pretty competitive vehicles for us to put our money into that, and they're okayed by IASBO and IASB and everything. They have all the sign off by the big companies or the big organizations that we trust. So that's why they're on there. But anyway, long-winded way of saying I recommend doing that. So
I move we approve the updated bank maximum allowances as presented.
Bob made the motion, Aaron seconded to approve the updated bank maximum allowances. Oh no, we gotta do roll call.
roll call.
Joni, or any discussion, I guess. Joni,
Voting no or no discussion?
Oh, no discussion.
okay, now we're gonna vote.
For, what are we voting? Oh, for the.
We're voting
this.
for these. For the maximum
Bank
maximum bank
I thought I
allowances.
said that. Oh, because we have each.
We have to, individual. Erica? Aaron?
Yes.
Joni?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm gonna abstain, thank you.
Yep. Sounds
All
good.
right. F, we're gonna approve the FY 22 audit.
Okay, so long awaited. Here's your bedtime reading tonight. So this, I will have you jump right toward the back because that's where the meat of this is. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. If you go to page 77, okay? I will point out a substantial report produced by Kay Chapman's office. I'll also point out that there are still, believe it or not, districts in our state, some within Northeast Iowa, that have not received their FY22 audit yet. It has been brutal, and the reason that I'm given by most is all of the micro audits that were triggered as a result of the federal funds, the federal award money. Once it exceeds, I don't know off the top of my head what the limit is, but I believe it's like $1 million or $2 million. Then that triggers a micro audit of that money and how that money was handled. And so it just kind of piles on the work, and there's less and less people in school audit. There's less and less auditors doing school audit. So it's just kind of a problem that keeps feeding into itself. But if we go to page 77 there, segregation of duties is listed as one of our internal control deficiencies. It always is, given our size. As Josh jokes, we don't have any more room for any more people in this office. All of our offices are at capacity right now, nor do I think it's responsible for us to add anyone else. If there is any interest from the board, I'm all ears on if you want to get a subcommittee or a brave band of one or two together and come look at canceled checks and deposit stubs and bank statements. Happy to do it. Happy to show you the ropes on it, but that would be one way that we could potentially respond differently than how I respond pretty much every year to this finding. But that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of that one. Material misstatements not detected, so I will point this one out, 78, page 78, toward the bottom there. So a lot of this comes from the fact that we had the $453,543 was our retainage that we had with the construction company, with Boyd Jones. And the way the auditor explained it to me was that needed to be accounted for in the previous fiscal year. So in FY21 when ground was broken, not in FY22 when the construction was completed. So it was my error. I didn't account for it then. I can tell you that all that money was accounted for, and that's kind of the case that I pled to the auditor. It was all accounted for eventually. It's just a matter of the timing of it when it's a summer construction project like that, but it was to no avail. Otherwise, I have nothing but really positive things to say about the experience with Kay Chapman's office. I think it's going to be a good partnership. She has a car workshop every year, and I plan on attending that next week. I believe it's down in Muscatine for a day where the car is like the granddaddy of them all in terms of our reports. That's the annual finance report on the district. So that'll be nice to get some kind of tips and tricks there and figure out our edits and hopefully avoid these types of notes in the future. And then the rest of the notes are those of discussion about the gear and ESSER money, just different. There's not enough people to segregate the duties is what they're saying there. In terms of statutory reporting, so page 80 there, certified budget. I did learn from Kay's office that when I do the re-estimate, I really shouldn't waste my time re-estimating the inflows because it doesn't matter. They don't look at our re-estimate of revenues. They only look at the revenues that are put out in the budget. So that to me doesn't seem like you're looking at both sides of it. Like if I'm going to re-estimate my expenses higher, I should, in good faith, re-estimate my revenues higher too. But I was told that's not the case. So I'm going to continue with the re-estimate process that we have in place because I think it puts us in a better spot. That's personal bias, but I know Josh agrees that, we try to give you guys a clear picture of what we think is going to happen. It's not a guarantee that it's going to happen, but we'd rather get those numbers closer than round.
Well, it's certainly more of a reflection of how we're going to end up at the end of the year.
Well, yeah, if your tax revenue is behind because people aren't paying their taxes in the spring and we're all of a sudden $200,000 short,
right?
Well, I mean, that's good information to have, and it doesn't hurt us to do it.
Right.
I mean,
right.
So
yeah, good business decisions.
Yeah.
We've already made decisions for the next fiscal year.
Yeah.
That concludes my report on the audit. There is some new Gatsby stuff that is very, very powerful in terms of what that portends for us because we have lease agreements and the way that we have to basically all the accounting entries that we have to make at the end of the fiscal year. But it's nothing to really trouble you with. But there are some big changes coming down the pike with those. But that's the long and short of it. So,
just final note here. I know the audit and the audit timetable and all that stuff. I know it causes Mike a lot of stress. This is one of the most expansive audits I've seen, and one of the most. This is the cleanest audit we've had since I've been here. So, I mean, huge kudos to Michael, and appreciate the work that Kay Chapman's office did. But I mean, really, having one, I mean, you can always expect to see segregation of duties. I mean, unless we significantly increase our accounting department. So, really, I mean, when you look down the list on page 80 and then 81, no expenditures were noted. No expended district money was traveled. No business transaction were noted. No transactions noted between districts. No transactions requiring board approval. No variances. No variances. Like the whole thing is just super clean, and you know, it really is just to the due diligence that Michael does day in, day out to make sure that we're dotting our T's and crossing our I's.
There you go.
All the way around.
Yeah. Thanks, thank you.
Yes.
I do appreciate it.
So, again, you're not approving it, you're just acknowledging that you're receiving it and reviewing it.
I'll make a motion, or do we, motion to approve the fiscal year 22 audit.
I'll second.
Erica made the motion, Joni seconded to approve the audit as presented. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed, the same. Motion passes. G is to approve the wellness policy.
Nothing changed here, just updated times and names on the committee members. Haley Roth runs this team. She has to have a functional wellness policy as part of our nutrition work for food service. So she monitors the team, and they do different activities and focus on water and different things for kids and trying to get kids to eat nutritiously. So recommend approval.
So when I was reading through this, I was wondering if we could do a little bit better at our concession stands with offering some maybe healthier options. I know we try it during the day, but it seems like once the school day is over and the concession stand opens up.
Yeah. Well, I know with our transition to Coke, we have more. I mean, we have a lot of options in terms of drinks that are just not pop. More Gatorade. Well, it's a Powerade, Body Armor, which is pretty healthy, and then they have iced teas. Lemonade's probably pretty high in sugar, but there's better options than just soda that we're offering.
Less carbonation.
Less carbonation, yeah. But we currently have a position open for a new concession stand director. So
Hired.
You just set yourself up.
Reset policy, I'm not looking for employees. I'm thinking more like rather than Slim Jims and mac and cheese, not that they go away, but maybe we could have some apples, oranges, bananas, yogurt, that type of thing. It's an option maybe. Just toss it out when we're talking about wellness.
Mark Taylor.
How about ice cream? It's dairy. My wife would appreciate that.
I will say about to that point, when we have those things out at like our morning wrestling tournaments, the kids buy them. They like it. They like having them as an option.
Great.
Restricted on what they can eat though.
Yeah.
Yeah, wrestling is, yeah.
I've over the course of my career, I've seen more youth eating more fruits and vegetables now. I mean, I think it's more acceptable. I think that maybe the wellness work is paying off over time.
They did do frozen grapes.
Mm.
Yeah, out
So-
of baseball concessions,
Yeah,
and
so
they like.
Columbus does frozen grapes and they are amazing. So, was it the prom group that did it?
Yep, after prom.
Yeah, they needed to use our freezer on the concession stand. They should have asked for that, but it was a good idea. And I think they did okay with it.
They sold out.
Mm-hmm.
Frozen was last one. Banana, you know, you get bananas and then but that would be.
The grapes are amazing frozen. They really are.
You can buy like bulk apple slices that are pre-cut, and they stay in packages for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
What about peanut butter? That's protein. Like protein shake.
It looked to me like we didn't have much for healthy options when we were.
Working the stands, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we could do better, let's put it that way. With that, I recommend we approve the wellness policy as presented.
I'll second.
Bob made the motion, Aaron seconded to approve the wellness policy. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. It's the same, motion passes. Michael?
Okay, so, a lot of text there. I already touched on car seasons upon us. It's in Muscatine, that workshop next week, on Thursday. Fourth quarter claims for title and ESSER are done. No one is happier about the ESSER claims being done than I am. But we utilized every penny of those funds, and I would like to say thanks for, the guidance and getting us through that 2.5 year ride. That was interesting to say the least, and I'm happy to report that we have used those. I did kind of prep the Monday morning crew this morning that life will be different in a post-ESSER world in terms of not having that $1 million sitting there. So that is something to keep in mind and be aware of as we go forward. And then we'll be working with the auditor to prepare for the FY23 audit. We're hoping to have it much sooner in FY24 for your review than this one was from FY22. Here we're officially in FY24 looking at the FY22 audit. So we don't anticipate that to be the case next time, but we will see how that goes with Kate Chapman's office. And then my last item there, I'd be remiss if I didn't show you a picture, at least of the joyful reason I was absent last month, and say thank you to Glenda for stepping in. That is my son, our son, Paul Allen Reaver. So he was born June 20th, 7:34 in the morning, 8 pounds, 14.2 ounces, 22 inches long. So, mom and baby doing good. So, yep. That's it for my report.
Already a Vikings fan.
Oh.
Poor kid.
I commiserate.
All right, thank you. Michael, Mr. Rain.
My report, I have some pictures in there because I've probably already seen the flood stuff. But since the last meeting, obviously we had the flood, and then I was off vacationing for a week, but also on the phone 3 or 4 times a day, trying to get answers and solutions. But it was time well spent because things are again going to fall into place, I think. Timetable wise, and getting this back to where we need it to be. I need to take another picture of the band room because we'd forgotten about Corey's office. Everything was clean. We're like doing a final walkthrough, and Chandler, who's kind of their main, the project manager who's been here day in, day out, it's like, hey, I got to show you something. He takes me for a walk, and he's like, we forgot a room. And he opens the door to Corey's office, and it's down a ramp. So it sits another 6 inches lower, and there's 20 filing cabinets full of music, 2 desks, there's sheet music all over the floors. He's like, what do you think we should do with this? I'm like, well, we probably need to clean it out. And so they spent a day moving all of that stuff out into the band room, and then pulling filing cabinets open and laying the sheet music on the floor, and then they couldn't point fans at it because the papers would just go everywhere. So they had fans in a box around the room with dehumidifiers going. I don't know, it was wild. But yeah, so the whole room is just full of filing cabinets and sheet music right now. Big space. But again, I want to just also reiterate what Tim mentioned about the custodians. Our maintenance department has been on point. Jim Prouty spent time the other day with Irvine Water, trying to figure out where the break was, because we didn't know where it was, and we knew we had the engineers coming, and it was just trying to get everything figured out so we could get answers. And everybody's been showing up and giving their best, and it's been really nice to everybody we've worked with to this point. And then I came back from break, from vacation, and went with the principals and our instructional leadership team down to new acronym, HRS training. It stands for High Reliable Schools. It's a framework or a practice developed by Robert Marzano, who is kind of like my disciple in terms of education. We've borrowed and begged and taken everything we possibly could from his work and research. It's the backbone to our proficiency scales and our standards-based grading work that we do. We've tried to align our teacher evaluations and our professional development practices aligned to his work over the years. And the silver lining of becoming an ESSA designated school is that we get quite a bit of money to do school improvement. And so we have decided to leverage those funds and actually buy into all this stuff that we've already kind of stolen. But now we're gonna, go all in on it so we get more resources. There's gonna be a lot more that we're gonna start sharing with you guys in the coming months around what this work looks like. But there are standards, and then you evaluate your performance as a district, as building leaders, as teachers against those standards. And level 1 is all about climate and culture, kids feeling safe in school, teachers feeling safe, having systems where staff and teachers can, have influence and make sure their voice is heard with administration. And then it goes into teaching practices and curriculum, and it works all the way down to like standards reference grading. And so there are standards at every level for us to evaluate our performance on and then to get feedback. And then they have a whole certification process that you can go through. So it was, I think, the administrative team would probably agree with me, and I've heard it was some of the best professional development we've ever received as educators. It was a very powerful several days, and the team is eager to keep learning and to start getting ready to implement some of these things with our staff. So that's what we've been up to.
All right. We are on to discussion. Bob? No discussion. All right. I guess our only upcoming meeting is August 21st.
2 days before school starts.
All right, item 15, I need a motion to go into closed session.
That requires reading on?
Yes, please.
I move to go into closed session to evaluate the professional competency of an individual whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge is being considered when necessary to prevent needless and incurable injury to the individual's reputation, and that individual requests a closed session.
Second.
Joe made the motion, Bob seconded. Roll call. Bob?